Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, MPs use the technique to talk out legislation they don't like. But a committee of MPs is proposing reforms aimed at putting an end to what's sometimes known as a filibuster, calling it a fraud on the people we represent. Here's the Conservative MP, Philip Davies, speaking at the debate on a bill to end hospital car parking charges for carers.
And so if we're already seeing this huge increase in parking fees for people, I wouldn't want to introduce a bill which would see people have to pay even more. This is something that was highlighted by the British Parking Association back in 2009, following the scrapping of hospital car parking charges in Scotland. They said car parks need to be physically maintained, somebody somewhere has to pay. Charges were not introduced to generate income, but rather to ensure that key staff, bona fide patients and visitors are able to park at that hospital. Without income to support car park maintenance, funds which should be directed to healthcare have to be used instead. There's also a very big geographic inequality.
Point of order, Barbara Keeley.
Mr Deputy Speaker, this speaker's already been speaking for an hour and 9 minutes, and what we're getting now is a lot of repetition. He's repeating himself.
I'm sure he was repeating himself, and the Conservative MP Philip Davies and Labour MP Julie Cooper, who introduced that bill on hospital car parking charges, are here. Why do you do it, Philip Davies? I mean, isn't it a bit of a low-rent technique to adopt filibustering?
Well, filibustering isn't allowed. The Speaker would pull you up if you were filibustering. It's not allowed in the UK Parliament like it is in America. But the point is, look...
But that is filibustering, isn't it?
The point is, lots of people on a Friday come with bills which are ill thought through, worthy sentiments. This was a prime example of one which was a very worthy sentiment, but hadn't been given any proper consideration to the detail and the application of it. It would actually have 5 out of 6 carers would actually have had to pay more for the car park. It would only have applied to 1 out of 6 carers. It was ill thought through. And so this bill did not deserve to go through.
Right, but should it be talked out?
Well, every parliamentarian uses whatever procedures are in place to deliver the outcome that they want. I mean, this is how the Labour Party got into the Jeremy Corbyn situation, by MPs saying, I don't want him to be the leader of the party, but go on, we'll give him a go, and they've ended up with a leader that they didn't want.
Well,
you've got to use whatever procedures you've got at your disposal to come about the outcome that you want, and every MP uses procedures to come about the outcome that they want. They'd be not doing the job properly if they didn't.
Right, well, let's first of all pick up on your point that it was ill thought through, this bill. Julie, do you want to come back on that first of all?
Yes, totally disagree. I'd spent a lot of time researching the bill. I'd talked to people on all sides of the House, including some Conservative members, Liberal Democrats, Scottish National Party, who were Green Party, very supportive of the bill. And I'd been advised early on when selecting a subject that it was wise, if you hope to have any progress with the private members bill, that you did have an issue that was non-controversial, that every party thought they could get behind. And the whole point of the bill committees that follow on following second readings are to iron out the details. But I spent a lot of time with people far more experienced than I at preparing bills, and there was a very sound prospect in that bill, but it was not to be, thanks to the filibustering.
And what do you say to Philip Davies' claim that MPs can and should adopt any technique that is at their disposal if they think a bill is, as he put it, ill thought through?
Well, I think what happens is outrageously dishonest and undemocratic. And I welcome the work done by the Procedure Committee since that episode that is actually looking to bring reform. Because one thing that my bill did do was to raise the whole issue in the public mind. Because had I been successful, 1 million carers and their families would have benefited. No carers, just to correct what Philip said, would have paid any extra charges. 1 million carers would have benefited. So hence it had a lot of public attention, and they were quite rightly disgusted that what they saw was sport on the part of some MPs.
And is that not what it is? It's sport. You do it because you can. Speaking for an hour and 52 minutes. Were you being undemocratic and dishonest, as Julie puts it?
No, I was blocking a bill that I thought was ill thought through, and Julie... And
it's not the first time you've done it.
No, but I don't do it for... Lots of bills go through if a bill is non-controversial. I don't block bills.
But you did it on the compulsory emergency first aid education bill.
That was a bad bill as well.
Philip Davies does it again. Tory windbag talks for 52 minutes against law to teach pupils first aid. Did you see the reason why he wanted this bill blocked? He'd been taught first aid at school, but had forgotten what he was taught. What kind of logic is that?
And the point about Julie's bill, if you don't mind me saying so, is that 5 out of 6 carers it wouldn't have applied to. It would only have applied to people with an underlying claim to carers allowance. We had no idea how the hospital was going to determine who had an underlying claim to carers allowance, how it was going to be managed, whether if there was a dispute between the hospital and the carer, if there'd be some new parking ombudsman who would resolve these complaints, whether the money to pay for this would come from the hospital, doctors and nurses, from the government, or for higher car parking charges for everyone else, which would have meant the other 5 out of 6 carers would have had to pay more. Julie couldn't answer these questions. She hadn't even spoken to Burnley Hospital in her constituency.
But she had spoken to other parties. So this was very much a
local hospital about
this was very much your sole campaign, wasn't it? It wasn't really a party campaign in that sense. So you took it upon yourself to wreck that bill.
No, because the point is this, is that if 100 MPs turn up on a Friday to support a bill, it passes through. Irrespective of what I do or for how long anybody speaks, 100. If Julie couldn't muster 100 MPs out of 650 to support her bill, she claimed she had all this support. Where were they all? If 100 MPs turned up, it would have passed through.
The point of this is that the more senior, more experienced MPs have sat through so many sessions that they know how it works on a Friday, that Philip and a couple of his colleagues sit there Friday after Friday, every time a private member.
Could you not get the support?
It is to be heard. There was the support there, but
where were they all? All you needed was 100 there.
The important thing is, Philip, that going forward, that this committee is looking to improve the process so that we can have an honest situation, so that we can have an honest vote. I mean, a number of colleagues who spoke against it, including Philip, have out in the wider community said that they support carers in Parliament and then refused to actually vote against it. Now, many of the issues that Philip mentioned, I had discussed with the Minister before the bill was presented, and he made it plain that the government did not want to support it. Well, then let's have an honest, let the public know honestly.
Should there be moves to get rid of this option, this technique, this filibustering?
No, I think the system works well in the sense that if a bill has support of 100 MPs, it can go through without anybody being able to block it.
So
but it gives a mechanism to block bills, because otherwise the problem is people come with a worthy sentiment and expect everyone just to fawn all over a worthy sentiment and just pass it on the nod. And we're passing legislation here. This is a serious business. It shouldn't just be able to come with a worthy sentiment and it be nodded through.
Before I come to Julie, do you think it is worth keeping?
The filibuster? Absolutely not. I mean, I think that the balance is not what happens in Parliament. If a large corporation wants the law changed, they don't ask an MP to put a Friday morning bill in. They go and they get an order in council, they get statute changed, they get ministerial decisions, and they're in there as we speak. You know, consultants being paid tens of thousands of pounds a week to do that. Now, to the public it looks like, OK, business can get any changes it wants to into government, but the public has to go either through petitions, which are never listened to, or private members' bills, and then somebody pops up and stops them. And I think that the minimum you can do is streamline and make clear the private... because there are some crazy ones. OK, make clear that the private members' bills are the procedure, but in the end, you know, I think it's only the beginning of participatory democracy, which is what I think we need in this country.
Do you think it will put people off, other MPs, actually coming forward with private members' bills? Absolutely, definitely.
I mean, I would think 10 times, 100 times before I give up a Friday to support a private members' bill, even on a very worthy issue. It is a total waste and a disrespect of the British Parliament, and even more than that, it's a disrespect of the British public. It's insulting to them. For them to be... a million carers could have benefited, and many of them and their families tuned in that morning to listen, to see the absolute charade that passed for debate.
All right. Thank you to both of you.
Thank you very much.
I won't let you talk out the rest of the programme.
You might think he's great for droning on, but the edited version is far more interesting.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm an idiotic arsehole.